We live, we live. My phone on do not disturb. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's going on? What's going on? Let y'all tap in with Coach Rountree. Yes, April 27th, 2025. We about to lock in, y'all. We're about to lock in. If you have a job interview this week, I want you to be successful. I'm going to give you everything I got, all the tips that I know from my time as a career coach, as a candidate myself. And so yeah, this is something I want to start once a week. I want to go live with y'all, go a little bit longer. Normally my content is between 1 minute to 10 minutes in time, but these lives is when I'm gonna just like be up here and tap in with you. Let me know in the comments, even if you replay this and watch this over time, make sure you hit me up. I always respond to my comments. I'm gonna let the beat build, as my boys from Earn Your Leisure would say, man. And yeah, share this live with others. I'm up here a little bit early. I've been marketing it as 12:45 EST, but you gotta treat it professional. So I'm up here a little bit early. I have about one, two, three, four, five, six different topics that I want to talk about today. And really, I want to start with just giving some background. So once I get some folks in here, we're going to really dive in. But I just want to give you a few gems if you are watching this a month from now, 2 months from now. It's hard to get ready and to prepare for a job interview. And I was reading a stat that said that over 90% of people are nervous during a job interview because you literally have to really sell this company on you as a candidate. And sometimes we're not comfortable talking about ourselves in a job interview. But my career changed when I realized that a job interview is a performance. And if you think about any sport, if you think about any sport, basketball, football, what's going on? I see you. Thank you. The first one in. I just want to talk about first the importance of treating your interview like it's a performance. And that's for me, that's what changed. And I'm going to give you background. In 2007, I was a sixth grade science teacher and basketball coach in Raleigh, North Carolina. I had no intentions of getting into business. I followed my heart and I was a teacher. What's going on? I see the chat. Let's go. Let's go. And so in 2007, I'm a science teacher. Love the coach, love the mentor. That's where the Coach Rountree name came from. It came from me being a science teacher in 2007. 2009, the Great Recession happens. I'm like, man, I gotta pivot. I can't teach in. I was a lateral entry teacher at that time. I didn't have tenure, so all lateral entry teachers were laid off, and I was one of the people. I was laid off in 2007 during the Great Recession. What's up, chat? I see I got 11 folks in here. We're going for an hour, or as soon as my son wakes up, my son Maxwell. But when I went to business school in 2010, I went to NC State, go Wolfpack, and I started to get what's going on. I see you, oh brother. What's good? What's good? And I started to really understand business. So I'm just walking you through my journey before we get into the topics. And if you have questions, if you got an interview coming up this week, bro, let me know in the chats. We can go through a scenario. We can do a real interview, and I can help you answer your question in real time. If you have any questions about job search and everything, I'm here. I'm Coach Roundtree. So I'm giving you the story how Coach Roundtree happened. I was a science teacher and basketball coach in 2007. 2009, I was laid off. Let's go. Let's go. I was laid off. And so I had to pivot. I went back to school, went to NC State. And when I was there, I started taking a lot of business classes. And we had this career development class where we would do interview prep and to help us land a job after we finished our school, our MBA. And I just noticed that folks they weren't really taking it serious. I was like, man, okay, they're not really going, they don't realize how important the job interview is. I said, man, if I can master being a great interviewer, maybe my career would be different. And so I started back in 2010 focusing on being a great interviewer. And what I learned 15 years ago is interviewing is a performance, y'all. You cannot show up to a job interview what I call cold. You have to put in the reps. You actually have to show people like, I'm prepared for this. This is game day. And so I go back to my time in high school. I played basketball, and when it was game day, we put on a suit. We didn't have suits, we had a shirt and tie. So we knew it was game day. And before every game we warmed up. We would do 2-line layups. We would Then we would do jump shots. Then we would slide our feet, do some defense, and then we would play the game. Your interview is the same way. You have to warm up, and you warm up with practice before the interview. And so once I learned that, I started to really crush it with my corporate career. So I went from a science teacher in 2007, MBA student in 2010. 2013, I got my first big job at Lowe's. I was a marketing expert, and then I started working for various marketing companies. So I did Lowe's, I did Belk, I did Cinemark. And then in 2019, my life changed when I got an interview request from Amazon. Amazon reached out to me and said, hey, we see your background. Over the last 7 years, you went from teacher to now you're in marketing. We're looking for marketing managers. And I locked in on that interview. I prepared for 2 weeks for that Amazon. What's going on, Pitt? What's going on? What's going on? I see the chat. If you have questions about your interview this week, let me know. I'm just going through how I became Coach Rountree. And it really started back when I was a science teacher. You see that picture up there? That's when I was a coach. That's my boys back from '07, where I was coaching them at Oberlin Middle School in Raleigh. So 2019, I get the interview request from Amazon. I said, oh, I've been working 10 years for this. Prepare for 2 weeks, go to Seattle, crush the interview, get a job offer from Amazon. And then I negotiated and I got my first 6-figure job offer from Amazon. And that's when I said, man, my career took off. I had 2020, I'm at Amazon. Then I go to other big companies like Lowe's, Nordstrom. And so in 2021, I said, man, I've had all these great interview experiences. I got to share. The people need to hear this. And I started this YouTube channel in 2021, the end of 21 into 2022. So if you're a day one subscriber, thank you. You've been with me on this journey. So that's how it all came about from Coach Rountree. I went from science teacher to marketing expert to now I'm a product manager. So I work with engineers to build technology. That's my day job. And I created this YouTube platform to help others land jobs. So that's who I am, Coach Rountree. If you've never subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, like this, share it with your people. I just want to share with you how I became Coach Rountree. And if you have any questions, chat, I need y'all to hit me up. Hit me up. I'm here for about an hour. You got me. You have a career coach free of charge. I normally charge like $150 per hour for a client. I'm giving you the same game for free on YouTube. All right, we're going to keep going. So I have like 7 topics. And if you have a question, let me know in the chat. Let's talk about the job search process. All right. The job market right now is tight. It is very tight. And I'm going to tell you how we got here. In 2022, after we got through the really most challenging parts of the pandemic, what happened was a lot of companies, they cut back on their staff. And then once all the money was being pumped into the economy and things were starting to really pick back up, they didn't have enough people to do those jobs. So it was a mad dash from employers to hire people. So the job market was hot. You can get 2, 3, 4 job offers. People were competing for job offers. I mean, it was a crazy time. And I was interviewing during that time, and I had 4 job offers. And I was getting recruited by Google and Meta. All these big companies were coming after me for my talent. That was 2022. 2025. So 2022 was a job candidate market. That meant you as a job candidate, you had all these companies going after your talent. Now, thank you. I appreciate the subscriber. Let's go. Let's go. Appreciate it, Pitt. Let's go. Look at my videos. I got over 300 videos on YouTube, man. Everything you need about job search, I got you. And if I don't, let me know in the comments and I can create a video for you. So 2022 is a job candidate market. That's when you had the leverage. 2025, that is, now it's an employer market. Employer market. Unless you work for the government, then you don't even have to go to work to get paid. Okay. Interesting. Give me more, Gerald. Tell me more about that in the comments. Yeah, you in here, Pitt. Yeah. Hey, we'll talk. Until my son wakes up, you got me live. So if you have questions about your career, job search, anything, let me know in the comments. But right now in 2025, it's an employer market. What I mean by that is companies now appreciate the like. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You locked in. I appreciate it. Companies now have the leverage. So when you're searching for a job, like have you noticed like when you apply for a job, you never hear back from that company? Like you never hear back from them. You're like, bro, but I did this. Why am I not hearing back from the company? It's because they have so many more candidates now that they'll even ghost you. You'll go on the first round interview, second round, yes, yes, yes. Amen. Amen. I'm a believer. Amen. So you'll go through the first round interview and you're like, okay, I'm waiting to hear back from the recruiter. They just ghost you because they have hundreds of candidates. So many people are looking for a job right now in 2025. So the job interview process is harder. You have more people applying for jobs. You have a lot of layoffs from these big tech companies, Meta, Amazon, Google. They're laying off all those different people. What did I play with when we was a little? Give me a little bit more information there, Pitt. As a kid, I enjoyed playing with Ninja Turtles. If you're asking, like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. That was my first job I wanted as a kid, a Ninja Turtle or a comedian or a teacher, and I decided to become a teacher. But so the job process, what you're gonna have now is multiple rounds. There are so many rounds now. Yes. Now Davis, I'm with you. That's something that's really important. I just did if you look on my page, I just did a Instagram reel, and on YouTube, I just did a YouTube short. They are scamming people with job offers. And what is happening is they're sending you text messages saying, "Hey, Gerald, I found your resume online. Would you be interested in this job? I'm going to offer you the job." And they're sending you a text message. And then you click on the link, right? And then you do this video over Zoom or Teams, and they're trying to steal your personal information. So I saw the article. There are more things happening in the market where people are scamming candidates. So if you get a text message, you don't know what company it is, you've never applied for that job, it is a scam. And last year, job candidates lost $60 million from those scams. Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah. So to double click on that, Davis, apply for jobs on LinkedIn. There's also a lot of scams happening on Indeed.com. It's really because what's happening, I said earlier, the job market is so tight. And so they know candidates are desperate to find another job. So they're doing these scams. They're sending you text messages. They're sending you emails. Oh, I found your information. Are you interested in this job? Bro, do not click on that link. Block that sender, send it to junk, and let them know, no, I'm not going to allow you to get my personal information. What I do for a living, Pitt, I'm a product manager. So a product manager is someone that works with engineers. Think about this app I'm on now. I'm on YouTube, right? So there's somebody at YouTube who is the product manager for YouTube Live. And she works with engineers and saying, hey, this is what we're going to build. Here's our roadmap for the next 30, 60, 90 days. And then they'll write a user story. As a YouTube channel owner, I should be able to go live and broadcast to my subscribers. Like that's a user story. And then they pass it to the engineers and they go build the technology. So I do that as a product manager. I've been a product manager for over 6 years now, working at big brands such as Nordstrom, McDonald's, Lowe's, and Amazon. I love product management. I have some videos on my channel about product management. But yeah, that's what I do for a living. And yes, Davis, you're right. If it sounds too good to be true, it is a scam. Do not click on those links asking you for a job, bro. It is a scam. Let me see if I got any text messages. All right. Any questions in the chat? Yes, Pitt. God bless you too. Any questions in the chat? All right. We talked about my intro. I talked about the job search. I want to now shift to just how interviews are structured right now. And I've personally worked with clients that are interviewing, and I just understand. Oh man, product manager, six figures, six figures. If I knew what I know right now, and if I was going to college, I would major in product management. Product managers make six figures. The average product manager makes $140,000. That's a fact. Go to glassdoor.com. Product management is the most lucrative career you can get and not have to spend a lot of years in school. So if I could tell my 20-year-old self, I'm 40 now, I would say, Marcus, focus on product management because you can bring all your skills, your communication skills as a teacher, you can bring your marketing expertise, your strategy, and be a product manager. So I encourage all of my subscribers, focus on product management. And the way to get there is to find a company that has a product management discipline or a department. And you might have project management skills, execution. You can execute a project and then find a job and be a project manager, and then a year later transition over to product manager, because a project manager can make 75K. A product manager who owns the vision, strategy, and execution versus just execution as a project manager can make $150,000. Can't find a button. Hit the subscribe button there, Davis. Subscribe button. Subscribe. Go back to my channel, and let me see if I can drop it in the comments. I don't know if it'll let me do that. This is my first live. I did one a few years ago, but this is my first live. Yeah, I don't think. I would say, yeah, go to it's Coach Rountree on my YouTube, Davis, and just hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers this year, y'all. So if you know anybody that's looking for a job, they're applying, they're preparing for interviews, share my channel with them. It's so many resources. And if you look at the comments for some of my viral videos, like how to negotiate a job offer, people in the comments are saying, Coach, this worked, I got more money, or I aced my job interview. But subscribe and share it with 5 people you know that are trying to improve their career. We 17 minutes in, man. 17 minutes in. So make sure you subscribe. All right, let's talk about the job interview process. So here's the thing. Because the job market is very tight, what's happening is there's going to be multiple. Hey, Pitt, I appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe. If you need me, hit me in the comments. And again, good luck on your career. God bless. Come back and holler at me. So there's multiple interview rounds. So here's how it works. First round is a phone screen. So you apply for a job. The recruiter is going to say, hey, Marcus, thank you for applying. We think you would be a good fit. Let's schedule a phone screen. And so the phone screen is like almost to make sure that you are who you say you are, because there's a lot of scamming out there in terms of candidates not being ready. Appreciate you, Pitt. Yeah. Hit me up anytime. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at Coach Rountree, ROUNTREE07. That's my biggest audience. I have about 14,000 followers on Instagram. A lot of my content went viral there, but all of the content started. All right. Hope your cousin has a good day. All of my content started on YouTube. So job market is tight. And so the process, you have your first round is a phone screen. They want to make sure that you're who you say you are. And so when you have your phone screen, what they're going to do is make sure that you're a good fit. The recruiter is like, all right, let me make sure that this person is a good fit. They'll ask you, what are your salary expectations on the phone screen? Please be ready to answer that question. Earlier in my career, I was afraid to talk about money. I'm a former science teacher. Teachers obviously don't get paid a lot. They should be paid way more. And so as a science teacher, I wouldn't talk about money. I was there to help the community, but when I transitioned over to business, it was like, hey, you need to talk about money. And I'll never forget the first time a recruiter on a phone screen said, hey, Marcus, what are you looking to make for this job? I danced around that question. I like Deion Primetime Sanders. I did not want. I was like, well, I'm a former science teacher. I mean, I don't. I basically said whatever you're gonna pay me. And I remember the recruiter kind of laughed a little bit, like, bro, are you serious? But I wasn't prepared. But I didn't like that feeling, so I started to study negotiation, and we'll talk about that later. So you have your phone screen. A few tips for the phone screen. you need to make sure that your recruiter becomes your biggest fan. And so some people don't really prepare for the phone screen as much. They're like, if I get past the phone screen, I'll be good for the in person. No, the phone screen sets the tone. It's your first conversation with the recruiter. You have to lock in with this recruiter. He or she needs to be like, yo, Marcus is dope. Like, this is the guy. Because they're going to then, after the phone screen, it's normally 30, 45 minutes. It's an hour if it really goes well. They're going to take your whole profile and present you to the hiring manager. And they need to be so excited about you. Like, yo, I met this guy. His name is Marcus, man. He was a former science teacher. He got his MBA. Now he's done marketing for all this big company. Now he's a product leader. Like, he's exactly what you asked for. He can do one, two. They need to be excited about you as a candidate. So they present you to the hiring manager, and then the hiring manager looks and she's like, okay, yeah, I want to meet this guy. And so the second round is going to be your hiring manager. So first round, phone screen. I have a video. It's starting to go viral. It's called Phone Interview Tips, How to Pass a Phone Interview. Make sure you check that out on my YouTube. It's really helping a lot of people pass their phone interviews or phone screens. So then you get to, all right, now I am with the hiring manager. Now, to prepare for the hiring manager, that's when you really start to get more specific questions. Typically, the phone screen, the recruiter is not going to ask you a lot of those behavioral questions. Tell me about a time when you did this. Tell me about a time when you led a team. Tell me about a time when you failed. Tell me about a time when you used data to solve a problem for a customer. But the hiring manager will. So your preparation for the hiring manager, which is the second round, you need to focus on the STAR method. I have a lot of videos on my channel. I just did a few recently on STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. It's your structured way for you to answer those common interview questions, like tell me about a time when you led a team. So when the so after you pass the phone screen, the recruiter is going to say, hey, Marcus, we really like your background. I want to move you forward to the next round to talk to the hiring manager. So if you have a hiring manager interview schedule, what I need you to do is to use the STAR method. And so what I always do is I create a Google Doc, and I'll have, all right, the interview, who I'm going to interview with, the time, because that's very critical. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then like sample questions. So I have like 5 sample questions. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about a time when you led a team. Tell me about a time when you managed conflict. Tell me about a time when you used data to solve a problem. Tell me about a time when you failed. So I have those 5 most common interview questions. And in my Google Doc, what I'll do for the interview is I'll say, all right, boom, tell me about yourself. And I'll go through and just introduce myself. I'll type it all out in that Google Doc. Hi, Marcus Rountree, born and raised in North Carolina. I started my career as a 6th grade science teacher. From there, I pivoted after going to business school at NC State. I had marketing roles at 123. I'm currently a product manager at XYZ, working with engineers to build new technology. Like, I'll type all that out and then practice. And pro tip, I'll time myself. I'll say, all right, tell me about yourself. I need to answer this in 90 seconds. And I'll go through and I'll time it. Do I got it? All right, bet. Then I'll go to my next question. Tell me about a time when you led a team. And I will use the STAR method. I will say situation. While working at company XYZ, I was a marketing manager responsible for our loyalty program. We noticed that our loyalty signups were much less than we forecast. I needed to figure out how to resolve it. Task. My task was to improve our loyalty program sign up. Action. The first action that I took was to analyze the last 30, 60, 90 days of our signups to see what was causing us not to hit our goals. I also collaborated with my tech team, my design and marketing team to say, all right, how have we been communicating this program to our members? Do we have any bugs or issues in our sign-up process that's preventing us from reaching our goals? Result. The end result was I identified there was a bug in our sign-up process that was preventing members from signing up for the loyalty program. I worked with my tech team to solve that issue. We tested it and validated that it was working correctly. The end result was we were able to increase our member signups by 15%. That is a live answer to that question off the dome. You see, this is live, bro. And I'm able to pull out these examples because I have so many reps. So for your interview prep, you gotta write it down and then practice. You should be able to answer. Tell me about a time you led a team in 90 to 120 seconds. Time yourself. And so go through, tell me about a time you led a team, tell me about a time you failed, tell me about a time when you used data to solve a problem, tell me about a time you managed conflict, and tell me about yourself. Those are the 5 most common job interview questions. You should have a STAR method demo, situation, task, action, result typed out to answer that question. That's the level of preparation you should have. Making sure I'm good and my wife didn't text me. That's how you should be prepared. You should be so locked in. So after the hiring manager round, now it's a good one. Let's talk about the length of the interview. All right. I gave you 5 most common questions. When you interview with the hiring manager or even the phone screen, you have to factor in the time. If you have 30 minutes, they can only ask you 3 questions in 30 minutes because all interviewers are going to leave time for you as a candidate and say, yo, what questions you have for me? And we're going to talk about that as well. Let me make a note. Questions for me. So if it's a 30-minute interview, you need 3 STAR method demos. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about a time when you led a team. Tell me about a time when you managed conflict. But have 5 already written and prepared in your back pocket, but they're probably only going to ask you 3 because the interview is going to start. Tell me about yourself. Okay, that's 5 to 10 minutes because then they're going to tell you about the role. That's another 5 minutes. Then they're going to ask you the specific question. All right, Marcus, now I have a few questions. I got to go through my template here. Tell me about a time when you led a team. Boom, crush it with the STAR demo example. Tell me about a time when you failed. Boom, crush it. Tell me about a time when you use data. Like you have those 5 in your back pocket. You don't know exactly which one they're going to ask, but you're prepared. After that, now that's for a 30-minute interview. Now, if the interview is 45 minutes, you need all 5 because they can ask you 5 star demo. They can ask you 5 behavioral interview questions. Tell me about a time you led a team, failed, conflict, used data to solve for a customer problem, and then tell me about yourself. So you have to game plan your interview based on the length. If it's an hour interview, you got to be locked in. They're gonna ask you at least 5 questions, and you got to be prepared. That's the hiring manager round. Now, at the end of the job interview, candidates make the biggest mistake. I have been on interview panels. I've been a hiring manager in my career. And the thing that really, I wish I could tell the candidate, but if it's a 30-minute interview, we're going to ask questions for the first 20 minutes. The last 10 minutes are yours. The last 10 minutes is where you shine. The last 10 minutes is when you say, you know what? I'm going to show you how bad I want this job. And you're going to ask questions using the acronym NCC. First, you ask them, what are the next steps in the process? That's when you can say, all right, how many interviews do I have before you make a decision? So what are the next steps in the process is always the first question you ask at the end of the job interview. What's going on? I see you in the chat. Hit me up. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you have a job interview this week. I'm up here for at least another 30 minutes just trying to help people that are preparing for a job interview. And so what you want to do is say, all right, first 20 minutes, they're gonna ask me a bunch of questions. The last 10 minutes, my time. And you're gonna say, hey, all right, what are the next steps in the process? How many interviews do I need to go on before you offer me this job? The next one is a current event. This is a pro tip. If the company is publicly traded, think Lowe's, Google, Meta, Home Depot, McDonald's, and they have earnings every 4 years, the thing that I always do is I go back and listen to the most recent earnings call. This is something that candidates are not doing, man. If you want to set yourself apart from the hundreds of people that applied, sometimes thousands, the dozen or so that they interview, be the person that listens to their earnings call and say, hey, I was listening to the earnings call last night. I see that customer acquisition is a big focus for the company. In this role, will I get an opportunity to develop strategies to help us acquire more customers? Bro, nobody is doing this. On the interview, I've also said, hey, I was listening to the earnings call and I heard the CEO talk about XYZ is a very critical for the company. Is this role connected to that critical priority where I'll be able to help push that forward? Team, sometimes the interviewers are like, whoa, we didn't even listen to the earnings call, but you took the initiative as a job candidate to listen to the earnings call. Man, it really changes the game when you take that initiative and listen to the earnings call. So current events, you also can go to the company website. I'll always go to the company website and you scroll down and it'll say in the news or recent press release. Always read that. You can also go to YouTube and search company name CEO. They may have done a TED talk or they may be on CNBC, which is one of the top financial networks or news shows out there. But your goal is really to show the company you research them before the job interview. Never miss the opportunity to ask questions during a job interview. That's the most common mistake I see candidates. I remember I was interviewing engineer a few years ago. The brother was sharp. He was crushing it. I mean, he was talking about his design thinking and how he goes and works with product management. And we got to the end of the interview and we're like, hey, wow, awesome job. Any questions for us? And he had 15 minutes left in that interview. And I'm like, bro, come on, ask us a question. And he goes, no, I'm good. And I'm like, and I remember saying, you sure you don't have any questions about the process, the team, the company? And he's like, nah, I'm good. And I just remember the facial expression from the other interviewers. Like she was let down. Like we spent the last 45 minutes interviewing you as a candidate. You have zero questions for us about our company, our people. I see I have a few folks on this live in the comments. Let me know where you from, where you joining me. If you have a job interview this week, let me know how I can help you. I'm just talking about the importance of answering. Once they ask the questions through the first part of the interview, the last 10 to 15 minutes is your time to shine. You have to ask them great questions. And recently, I got to the end, really strong candidate, 15 minutes left in the interview. I was like, bro, we were like, you have any questions? And he was like, nah, I'm good. And he ended up not getting the job. Now, there are probably other factors, but if you do not ask questions during a job interview, it's a red flag. It doesn't tell me you're interested. And you also have to think about the people that are interviewing you, they have a day job. They're taking an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes out of their day to interview you as a candidate. And if you don't show the interest, you're fumbling the ball. You're fumbling the bag. So what are the next steps? Always ask that. Ask about a current event. And then lastly, ask about the culture. In a job market like this in 2025, companies cannot afford to make a bad hire. That's why you see all these multiple rounds. Like you interview with the recruiter, hiring manager, then you have a panel interview with the people you will work with. Then they're adding this fit, the cultural fit with the VP or the senior director. You're meeting with that person. And then sometimes they'll add a case study. Companies cannot afford to hire the wrong person in 2025. Resources are tight. Everybody's cutting back. So your job interview performance, it is so important. You have to really crush it to land these job offers because the stakes are high and a company does not want to make the wrong hire. And so the last question you have to ask is, tell me about the culture of the company. You've been with the company for XYZ. How would you describe the culture? And shut up. Listen. You want to hear their experiences and you want them to say things and you're like, that sounds like me. I thrive in a collaborative environment. I thrive when it's all about teamwork, when there's a commitment to delivering results. Like you want to hear that and reaffirm it, and then also validate what they say from what you hear on glassdoor.com. The best way to understand a culture of a company and identify any potential red flags, go to glassdoor.com before the interview. Type in the company and then you'll see reviews. and people will tell you about the company. Like they will be real with you. Like I used to work at company XYZ. Here's what the culture is actually like. Do that research before the job interview. So during the interview, at the end, you ask them, hey, how would you describe the culture? And see if they say the same thing you heard from people that used to work there. So you can paint the picture of like, okay, what's real and what's not. That's a major key. Major key. And so NCC, what are the next steps? Tell me about a current event. Go to the company website, listen to the earnings call. And then lastly, what is the culture like? Those are some of the most important questions that you have to ask during your job interview. All right. So we've talked about the job search process. We talked about the interview. What's going on? Let me know in the chat what's going on. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'm Coach Rountree. Since 2021, I've been posting content on YouTube because I've had interviews at Amazon, Google, Meta, so many great companies. I want to help you achieve your career goals. Let me know where you're tapping in with me from. Let's talk about the money. Salary negotiation. And I'm going to just share everything that I know about salary negotiation to help you get the bag. So here's what happened to me early in my career. In 2013, I got my first corporate job offer. This was Fortune 500 company. And I remember the recruiter called me. I was at my old job and I was literally a sales manager for a retail company. And I remember I had crushed the interviews. I was expecting a call. I was praying for a call. I am a believer. So I was praying, Lord, please bless me with this job offer. I'm ready to get up out of this company. And I remember helping a customer, and then I walked and I had my phone in my pants. And as soon as it rang, I saw it was a recruiter from this company. I picked it up and she said, hey, Marcus, hope you're doing well. I got some good news. We want to offer you the job at company XYZ. Here's your starting salary. And I said, yes, 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 I accept. I accepted the job offer over the phone before I even negotiated. I was so ready to leave that company, and it was above what I was making. I think it was 14K above what I was making at that old company. And I just said yes, 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 and went for it. And then after I accepted the job offer, my mentor said, hey, did you negotiate your job offer? And I think it was the offer was $54,000. I was making $40,000 at my old company, this new company. And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't know you can negotiate. He said, yeah, you can negotiate the job offer. And so after I accepted the job offer, I start my orientation. I said, hey, can I negotiate the job offer? And the recruiter looked at me like, bro, you already signed the job offer. She said, well, I'll go ask. And she came back and basically said, nah, bro, you already signed it. And so that was my first introduction to salary negotiation. I accepted the job offer over the phone, signed the job offer, and then tried to negotiate later. So wrong. So I did that in 2013. Never thought about negotiating. Took every offer I could get. And then in 2018, I got a job offer. It was for $80,000. And I knew I had crushed the job interview. And I said, well, can you do a little bit more? And he said, well, what about 90,000? And so they gave me the 90,000. And I'm like, I used to make 28,000 as a science teacher. I just talked about my $54,000. This was $90,000 in 2018. And I was like, okay, I'm almost at 100,000. Okay, $90,000. And so accepted the job offer, moved to Texas, did not get a relocation package. My wife and I, we literally moved ourselves to Texas. Got to Texas, and then probably a week before I started the job, I said, man, let me see if I got a lowball offer. Let me see if what I signed was actually market value. So I've accepted this job offer, move my family to Texas, and I said, I'm going to negotiate. I got 10K more, so I got 90,000. I typed in strategy manager, Dallas, Texas, and I clicked. My salary was 90,000, and it said, based on this, your salary should be $125,000. And my heart just sank. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making $35,000 less than what I should be making for this role. And I promised myself in August of 2018, I said I will never not negotiate my job off. I'm gonna figure this out. So I started reading books, listening to podcasts on YouTube. I was like, I gotta become a good negotiator. And so, team, a few things, and I posted this on. I have so many videos on salary negotiation. My first viral video was how to negotiate a job offer, how to negotiate your salary after getting a job offer. And so here are a few things that you should always do. Number one, never accept the first offer you get. And there's some muscles you have to build in your head, because we're taught apply for the job, interview for the job, get the job offer, accept the job offer. But there's 5 steps: interview, apply, interview, get the job offer, negotiate the job offer, and then accept. Most of the people don't realize you have to negotiate your job offer. I see someone in the chat. Hit me up in the chat. I'm up here for another 20 minutes helping you prepare for your job interviews this week, next month. If you need me, hit me up in the chat. We're talking about salary negotiation. You should always negotiate your job offer every single time. And it's a myth. They will not rescind your job offer. They won't take it away. And in fact, 80% of companies expect you to negotiate your job offer. So if they give you an offer and you just accept it blindly, it's actually a red flag. Because, and I learned this, I was on it, this is a real story, 2018, we're interviewing for a director of loyalty at this company. I'm on the interview panel. This dude comes up there, crushes it. I'm talking about 30 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, crushes the interview. He walks out the door. The SVP's there, the chief customer officer's there, other directors. I'm there as a strategy manager. The door closes. He leaves the building, and they say, wow. This is what they'd say after you finish that interview. I was there. Wow, this dude is incredible. He is the guy. Like, he can do this, this is. And then the chief customer officer said a few things. She said, don't immediately respond to him. It was on a Thursday. She said, don't respond to him on Friday. Let him think through it over the weekend. We have to change gears and start and get ready to negotiate. And we don't want to show him we're too zealous about him as a candidate. This is real talk, bro. And I'm in the room like, what? And they say, and then the SVP says, well, if he doesn't negotiate this job offer, that's a red flag. She was like, he has to, at his level as a director, if you don't negotiate your job offer, she viewed it as a red flag, because you're not going to negotiate with customers. You're not going to negotiate with your team. Like, they're looking at you as a leader in their role. So you have to negotiate. And if you don't, it's considered a red flag. I saw that. I said, okay, I got to negotiate. So in 2019, I got my first job offer. I was like, I'm going to negotiate. And so that job offer was, when I interviewed with the company A, the job, they said, look, we only can pay $85,000. I said, all right, bet. We'll just go through the process. We'll see where we land. I was interviewing with another company. Company B offered me a job for $105,000 in 2019. That was my first 6-figure job offer. Company A said they only have budget for $85,000. I got one job offer for $105,000. I preferred to work for company A versus company B. And so I said to them, hey, if you can match the 105, I'll sign the offer. And so that's what happened. Company A told me they only had budget for $85,000. I got a competing offer for $105,000 for company B. They went from $85,000 to $105,000 for me, and I signed the offer at company A. That was my first 6-figure job offer in 2019. I was making $105,000. And for me, That was like a big moment to make $100,000. A former science teacher, I was making $28,000 in 2009. 2019, I'm making $105,000, and I negotiated my first job offer. So, team, you always have to negotiate your job offer. And number two, you have to look to get competing job offers. Even in a economy like we have in 2025, you have to always keep interviewing with multiple companies. Like back in the day, I used to make the biggest mistake. I would interview for company A and I would stay right there until they told me no. Then I would go to company B. Stay right there, only focus till they told me no. Then I would go to company C. And then one of my best friends, my dog, Cam Ward, he said, dude, there are hundreds of thousands of companies. Why are you just waiting for this one company? And that changed my perspective where I said, all right, in 2019, I'm going to keep interviewing until I get multiple job offers. That's how you create leverage. You don't want to just interview for one company. And what I tell my clients, my subscribers and followers, after you finish the final round interview, any interview, round 1, 2, 3, 4, apply for 3 jobs that same day. Why? I know the interview went well. I know I'm going to get a job offer. They told me you're going to hear good news is on the way. Tell your wife. They told me all these great things. You still have to keep applying for multiple job offers, more jobs, even after a great interview, because you can't control anything else. After your interview is over, you have zero control over the outcome, but you can control applying for more jobs. So always keep applying even after a great interview because you don't know if you're going to get the offer or not. And here's what also applying for jobs after you finish an interview does. When the recruiter checks back in with you and she's like, hey, Marcus, the team is still deliberating. They're still going through your candidacy. And they're saying, hey, we're still going through it. If you're saying, hey, I'm actually in the final round at a company XYZ, that changes the energy. That changes the energy when you can actually say, I'm actually in the final rounds at another company. Then that creates the fear of missing out. That creates that FOMO where you're like, bro, okay, we got to go after Marcus. Marcus is in high demand. We can't miss out on him as a candidate. So keep interviewing. All right. A few more tips. I got about 13 more minutes that I'm going to bounce from here. If you got questions in the comments, let me know in the chat. Also, this will be replayable on my YouTube channel. So if you have questions about any of these topics, hit me up after this live is over. I always respond to my comments. I want you to be successful. Sign-on bonuses. Sign-on bonuses is something that you only hear about in NFL, NBA, but you also can get a sign-on bonus in corporate America. So my first ever sign-on bonus, I was interviewing for interviews with 2 companies. I get one job offer, and the job offer for company A, it was 6 figures. Company B, they only could get me down to $90,000. I said, hey, could we do a $15,000 sign-on bonus to make up the difference? And the company said yes. And I was like, whoa. The sign-on bonuses is a one-time cash payment paid on your first or second check. And companies do that to incentivize you as a candidate to sign the job offer. And so I've had sign-on bonuses from $5K, $15K, all the way up to $80,000 at Amazon. That was my sign-on bonus. It was $80K. And over 2 years. So 50 the first year and then 30 the second year. But sign-on bonuses is real. So let's go through an example. You interview with company A. They offer you $50,000. You currently make $40,000 on your job today. You interview for company B. They offer you $60,000. You currently make $40,000 on your job. So you have a job offer for $50,000, another one for $60,000. You counter both job offers, and we're going to talk about that. And then job A goes up to $60,000, and the job B goes up to $70,000. But you really want job A. Job A is the one you want, but they're only at $60,000. Job B is at $70,000. They can't move any higher. Ask the company for a one-time sign-on bonus of $10,000 to make company A the best offer because you're at $70,000 in total cash compensation. That company is more than likely to say yes. They'll give you a one-time sign-on bonus versus paying you $70,000 in base for the full year. So team, sign-on bonuses are real. They're still giving them in 2025. I've worked with clients. I've seen it. Yes, go after a sign-on bonus. Last thing to say about negotiation is your stock. If it's a publicly traded company, do not forget about your stock. Yes, or your restricted stock units. In tech, we call them RSUs. That should be a part of your negotiation strategy. If you get the base you want, but your sign-on is not as strong, go hard on the stock. Really negotiate your stock. I also want to talk about things that are not talked about a lot, but you can negotiate. You can negotiate your job title. You can negotiate when your first performance review happens. I've literally worked with my brother, actually was interviewing for jobs, and he was like, man, I didn't get the base that I want. I said, well, why don't you ask them over the next 6 months to recalibrate the job, the grade of the job based on your performance. He did that, and that's exactly what the company did. Your PTO or paid time off, you can negotiate your PTO. Say they only give you 2 weeks and you have a wedding overseas in Italy, you notice 1 week is going to be gone. You can negotiate an additional week of PTO because you know you want to get the two full weeks and you have a pre-planned trip. You can also negotiate a remote assignment. Say they are hybrid, but for some reasons you want to remain remote. You can negotiate and say, look, I want to be able to work remotely over X period of time or permanently. You can also negotiate just some of the health benefits, some of the match you might have for your 401k, a company phone. Maybe you want an expense account to be able to negotiate for conferences you want to attend each year. Long story short, you can actually negotiate so many different things, but you can't negotiate if you don't have leverage. If you don't have a great interview performance, if you don't have a multiple job offers, if you don't have a rare skill set, it's going to be hard to negotiate those things. All right. Last 8 minutes, and I'm gonna get up on out of here. I want to talk about we talked on it briefly, but you got to practice. You have to practice for your job interview. Do not just show up cold. Make sure that if your interview, say your interview is coming Friday, then you should create a schedule of how you're going to practice for at least 1 hour per day. In that same Google Doc where I talked about it earlier in the live, you should have at least 5 most common interview questions in your preparation. Tell me about yourself, type it out. Tell me about a time you led a team. Tell me about a time when you managed conflict. Tell me about a time when you used data to solve a problem. And tell me about a time when you failed. Those are the top 5 most common interview questions. Type out a STAR method answer: situation, task, action, result to all 5 of those questions, and practice 1 hour per day. So you got an hour on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The day of the interview, if it's in the afternoon, you can practice some in the morning, but I tell candidates 3 hours before your job interview, you got to stop preparing. If you don't have it by 3 hours before that interview, stop playing. Stop preparing. You have to be ready that last within 3 hours of a job interview. Your mind has to be at peace. The day of the interview, make sure you eat breakfast or lunch, depending on the time. Make sure you meditate. If you're a believer, make sure you pray before your interview. And then go and do your best and let God do the rest. But you have to practice. Practice at least 1 hour a day for your job interview. A few other tips. Immediately following your job interview, I don't care if it's a home run. Immediately following your job interview, always apply for 3 more jobs the same day. Why? Because you cannot control the outcome of the interview once you get off that Zoom, you get off that Teams. You have to control what you can control, and that's how many applications you make after your job interview. A few other pro tips is make sure that you follow up with your recruiter after your job interview. Because again, recruiter, that's the person that's going to advocate for you the most. And so you want to say, hey, just want to follow up with you, John or Jane. I had a great time talking with the hiring manager. Here's what I really learned about the role. I'm excited about this. Please keep me posted on next steps. Sometimes people wait for the recruiter to hit you up. You have to own the communication with your recruiter. Send her an email. Send him an email saying, "Hey, I just finished my second round with a hiring manager. Here's what I learned. When can I expect to hear back from you?" If you're in the chat, let me know. I got about 5 more minutes. Unless you have very specific questions. I've been up here for 55 minutes. If you got some questions, hit me in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram at Coach Rountree, ROUNTREE07. But always lead and drive the communication with your recruiter. They are so busy. They may have 5 other jobs opening, recs or job openings, but you got to follow up. They appreciate your follow up. Don't just sit there, pulling your hair out like, "I don't know, I haven't heard back from this job, bro. I don't know." You have to be proactive. Follow up with your recruiter immediately following your interview. And just a few other things to call it, say, and give you encouragement. You are one job interview, one handshake away from the next level in your career. Prepare, pray, practice, do your best during your job interview. It is a performance. Your job interview is a performance. Any performance has practice, it has a warm up, and then you actually play the game. Interviewing is not any different. I hope that through this live, and I'm going to do these at least once a week, that I gave you some value. Watch the replay. It'll be on my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Consider subscribing if you need help. Instead of paying for a career coach, which can be hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, you can get it for free on my YouTube. Man, I'm sharing everything that I know because people that I will never meet are going to watch this and be like, "Yo, that makes sense. I'm going to try that." They're going to get the job. They're going to improve their livelihood and be able to take care of their family. Like, that's what it's all about. That good energy, putting that good energy into the universe and being able to just help somebody else. That's why I'm on this YouTube platform. That's why I'm always going to be a career coach, whether we ever meet or not. There are a few advanced tips you can do. You can ask for the job at the end of each interview. I typically will say, "Thank you so much for your time. I've learned so much about the company." With over 10 years of experience in marketing, 5 years of experience in product management, working at big brands such as Amazon, Lowe's, Nordstrom, McDonald's, I have the unique skill set to communicate, collaborate with teams, and also the strategic vision to know what we should build now, next, and later. I'm also a great cultural fit for this company, knowing that you have very key initiatives that you're going after. And for those reasons, I believe that I'm the best candidate for this job, and I want you to hire me for the job. I always close a job interview with, "I want you to hire me for this job." That's the last thing I want that hiring manager, the panel, the VP to hear is Marcus said, "I want you to hire me for the job." I make their job easier. That's a strategy, advanced strategy you have to practice. I have a video on my YouTube as well as my Instagram to do the close, is what I call it. It's going viral on Instagram. You can follow me there at Coach Rountree, ROUNTREE07. You can see it there on my profile. You can close the interview, be ready to negotiate. But I wanted to close this live out by just praying for you. I'm a man of faith. If you're not a believer, hey, you can bounce. But if you are, I want to take the last few minutes just to pray for you this week. Lord, I thank you. Thank you for life, health, and strength. Lord, thank you for this platform on YouTube to be able to help others achieve their career goals. There are people all around the world that I'll never meet, never say hi, never be in the same room, but they're consuming this content right now. Lord, I just ask you to bless them to be their best self during their job interview this week. Help them to show up with confidence. Bless their preparation. Help them to take it seriously, Lord, knowing that this could determine their livelihood, Lord. And we know that your word said all things work together for the good, for them to love the Lord or call according to their purpose. And we know that you're going to work this out for their favor. Give them confidence. Give them boldness during their interview. Take the nerves down, whether it's a phone screen or panel interview or presentation or cultural fit with the VP. Help them to show up as their best self. Bless them to reap what they sow. Bless them to put in the work so that they can reap. Bless them to sow well during the preparation so that they can reap that job offer. Give them the confidence to negotiate their job offer. And Lord, I just thank you for blessing them with good success this week, this month, this year. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, I want to appreciate y'all. I want to encourage you to do your thing, put in the reps, to have a wonderful interview this week, this month, this year. I'm Coach Rountree. On my channel, I post interview tips, career advice, help you elevate your game. You can do it. You're one handshake away, one interview, one phone screen, one presentation, one LinkedIn message away from your next level. And if it's added value, share this channel with your people so you can be successful. We just hit 60 minutes on my live. Listen, I'm right around the corner. Hit me up, DM me on Instagram, comment below, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.